Good afternoon and welcome back to the Edmonton Global stage at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. I'm Brent Lakeman, the Executive Director for the Edmonton Region Hydrogen HUB, and this next panel is called The New Phase for the Edmonton Region Hydrogen HUB. Certainly something near and dear to my heart, but very happy to have the chance to be with my other panelists. I'm just going to quickly introduce them. First to my right is Mark Plamondon, Executive Director of the Alberta Industrial Heartland Association. Next to Mark is Ericka Rios, Program Manager, Alberta Innovates, and to her right is Myron Keehn, the President and CEO of the Edmonton International Airport. So thank you for all being with me here today. We're just going to kick it right off and get into the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. So we know the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub has been around for a while, but maybe Mark, you've been with it from the very early days. So can you just talk a bit about the long way we've come since we launched this hub several years back, and what's changed?
Yeah, happy to talk about that, Brent. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. As Brent had mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association. And I'll just talk a little bit about what we do, which positions us as to how we got involved with the hub. But, our association, we represent municipalities in Alberta, in the municipalities in the region called Alberta's Industrial Heartland, so the City of Edmonton, City of Fort Saskatchewan, Strathcona, Sturgeon, Lamont counties. And though the board members of AIHA, or the Industrial Heartland Association, they represent those municipalities. They're the reeves and the mayors of those municipalities. So a number of years ago, when Transition Accelerator was doing a bunch of work around hydrogen opportunities across Canada, there was a conversation between our board members and the Transition Accelerator around Alberta's Industrial Heartland and how it fits in the overall hydrogen economy. And it was decided at that time from our board members that we would commission a study with the Transition Accelerator on hydrogen in Alberta's Industrial Heartland and how that would fit in a hydrogen economy. And what was concluded at that time, and not surprising, is that the Industrial Heartland is one of the best jurisdictions for the production of hydrogen. Some of the lowest cost, lowest carbon hydrogen can be produced in Alberta's Industrial Heartland. And we've known that anyways, given the petrochemical industry that's there and all of the industrial activity that's there. But it's nice to have a third party to validate that and conclude with that study. And within that study as well, it was recommended that a hub model be utilized, where there's various hubs across the country, and it was proposed at that time that an Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub be stood up. And so the 5 municipalities in Alberta's Industrial Heartland decided to essentially enter into this opportunity of standing up the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. And not to be too long-winded about it, but we were able to partner with Edmonton Global, Transition Accelerator, Government of Alberta. I think Prairies Can was involved as well at that time, to have a collaboration around advancing a hydrogen economy in the Edmonton region.
Great, and maybe just where we're at now as far as the shift over these first 4 years and getting into this new model that we're moving towards.
Yeah, certainly. So there was a 3-year funding model amongst the funding partners at that time to advance a number of hydrogen initiatives, and a lot of them would have been discussed here at this conference and around this trade show floor as well. And in the last, basically since January 1 of this year, we've had essentially a relaunch of the Hydrogen Hub with 4 key funders: Edmonton Global, Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association, Alberta Innovates through Hydrogen Center of Excellence, and the International Airport, Edmonton International Airport. And those 4 funders essentially are going to sit on the executive committee and fund the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub for the next 2 years anyways, if not more. And under that model, we have an executive director of the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, Brent Lakeman, and associated dedicated staff, and a budget and a program that we're going to advance in the next 2 years. And so that's what we're excited about right now.
Right on. So maybe I'll just kind of jump in, and as far as this new model, we're kind of building off of the first 4 years, the great work that has been done with the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. We'll get to maybe Myron in a few seconds there about now expansion into some new players here, like the Edmonton International Airport. And I think maybe the other thing just to highlight is, really looking to continue to really build off the vision that's been created for the Edmonton region and now begin to activate on that opportunity. So whether it's in the mobility sector, whether it's in heat and power, other sectors that may be the users of hydrogen, how do we now start to really move this forward in a scalable manner? I think the value proposition for our region is we can do things at scale here. So the same should take place in hydrogen, whether it's growing the number of municipal vehicles, growing the number of commercial vehicles, the airport vehicles as well. So, I think, again, we're really positioned well for success, and particularly with this broader expansion of the key players that really have a strong economic development focus. When I look at the airport, certainly the industrial heartland, Edmonton Global, even the Hydrogen Center of Excellence, it's really trying to leverage this economic opportunity that we have in the region. Maybe I'll just flip over now to Myron, actually. Aviation is an exciting and visible part of the hydrogen story. What role do you see hydrogen actually playing in the Edmonton International Airport and across the aviation ecosystem? And, what does that really look like, and how can the hub really help support your goals?
Yeah, thank you, Brent. And thank you, everybody online and in the audience as well. I think what's unique in an airport is we are cities unto ourselves. And it's a perfect place to have a nexus of supply and demand to try and adopt new technologies and really provide consumer adoption, consumer awareness of what hydrogen actually is, and more importantly, what it isn't. And so in order for anything to be successful, I believe there's three ingredients. You need to have the right place. We have a geographic advantage. We have the facility with the Heartland here and everything that's happening. You have to have the right people to collaborate with and the right time. And it really is now that you're seeing this happen. And you're seeing a global awareness of it. Aviation's a very difficult to decarbonize sector. And hydrogen is going to play the key element, and pun intended there, to actually help it decarbonize. And it is literally the foundational element in everything we're going to have happen in an airport, whether it's sustainable aviation fuel, whether it's powering ground equipment, or it's powering and heating the cooling of the building. And that happens through collaboration with great post-secondaries, great partners that are all sitting on the stage here today, and our business community within the Edmonton ecosystem. So really exciting. What the future of the airport looks like is arriving in, hopefully, maybe an autonomous vehicle powered by hydrogen, getting on through a terminal building powered and cooled through hydrogen, onto an airplane likely powered by hydrogen. It's pretty immense what you're going to see the future look like in 5, 10, and 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for attending this panel, and thank you so much for you all for working with Alberta Innovates on creating the Edmonton, or rather relaunching the Edmonton Hydrogen region. For those who don't know, Alberta Innovates is a convener, a connector. It is a connecting tissue on innovation for Alberta, for the province. And so we provide funding, we provide also support for startups, as well as technical support and funding support for any technologies that are between TRL 3 to 7. And we are humbled and honored to be part of this amazing opportunity to work alongside these amazing individuals here with me in the panel. So we have talked about, what happened in the past, how AIHA was created. We talked about what can we do in the future in regards to decarbonizing operations for the airport, as well as you, Brent, leading the Edmonton Hydrogen Region Hub. What do we have in the future? There is so much uncertainty right now, politically, local, in our government, with our neighbor in the south, with different policies, incentives, and regulations. So my question to you all is, what do we have to look out for right now?
Yeah, well, I'll make a comment there for sure, because you bring up a really good point around, and it's been a common theme here, of course, a lot of the uncertainty, whether it's the tariff issue, the economic framework, the regulatory framework, all of the uncertainties that we have in advancing a new technology or a new ecosystem, a hydrogen ecosystem. And I think it's actually one of the reasons why it's more important to even have this hub, right? This collaboration, it's a formal collaboration between the 4 partners, not just ourselves though, because then there's a number of initiatives and working groups underneath the hub framework that Brent and his team will be leading that will involve a number of stakeholders, whether that's municipalities, companies, whether you're a consumer, a midstreamer, a producer. And I think that's a key role that the hub can play to try to advance the collaborations and conversations to work through all of these uncertainties. And what they are, you name it, there's lots of them. I mean, of course, it's talked about need to aggregate demand. Well, that's going to be a function of price, because demand's a function of price, which is a function of scale, which is going to need collaborations in infrastructure, and on and on. I don't have answers to those, but the collaborations of the teams working through these various issues at the hub can help advance policy issues, ideas, projects that can hopefully try to address some of these issues.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just to chime in a little bit. I think the region that we have, Edmonton region, is so well positioned, compared to virtually anywhere else in the world, to really be a leader in this space. And I get out to a number of events globally in my role when I was with Edmonton Global, and we certainly see companies from around the world saying, yeah, the Edmonton region, this is the best place to invest in that hydrogen economy, because you've got that strong industrial base, you've got the key corridors, you're well positioned in things like the transportation sector, some of the climatic opportunities, I guess, that we have. Cold winters, those are work very favorably for hydrogen vehicle adoption. The distances, the loads that we have. So that's why so many companies are really looking for this region to be the place to begin demonstrating technologies and be deploying them at a significant scale. So again, I think this is a long journey. We're doing this because of the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's not going to go away. We go through some valleys and troughs around the policy environment around that, but the long-term trend is continuing to look for lower carbon energy sources, lower forms of production, or lower carbon production across sectors, and we're seeing all of that around the Edmonton region. So I think this is where it's all happening. This is really the place for this to take place. So I think the hub can play a key role in getting that message out, connecting others. That's really the mandate of the new hub, is focused on ecosystem convening, systems integration, and advocating for the right types of policies that are necessary to really capitalize on this economic and environmental opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. Collaboration is key, definitely. Myron, in regards to how to move forward and the parameters that we have to keep in mind, how are you seeing that the carbon tax and carbon pricing is affecting the decisions for the airport in regards to innovation and hydrogen adoption? Because one thing is a tax, and another thing is the actual opportunity of creating carbon credits, right? So how is this affecting your decision making right now?
Yeah, I think if we look at a good saying by Peter Drucker, was the best way to predict the future is create it. Or Gandhi said, what you do today, the future will depend on what you do today. And so we have an opportunity, I think, in Canada and Edmonton particularly, and the pathway to net zero really does run for Canada through Edmonton, to create that future. And the reality is, in the global stage, is that carbon and carbon credits and the pricing for that is a requirement to fly. And you're seeing it within Europe, you're seeing it now going into Asia, you're seeing it adopt in the Middle East. And so how do we make sure we have a place at the table, to set what that looks like, instead of it happening to us, we're actually creating it. And with that, all the industry that comes along. We really are blessed to have massive industrial talent here, advanced manufacturing talent, phenomenal post-secondary education institutions, and great industry partners. And so it's really that collaborative approach that's going to really position us as a leader in this space. So it is important, and no matter what happens south of the border in different areas, collectively, globally, it's already going that way, and it's not going to, it may slow down a little bit, but it's not going to change. So how do we make sure we can drive that? And I think you'll see that with the awareness of the people that are at this table today, sitting on the stage, but also in the region, just a whole focus on collaboration. This region is so cross-functionally collaborative. I think it's great that we can actually drive this forward.
But certainly, I will add that there's a number of uncertainties when advancing a hydrogen economy, for sure, and the framework around carbon credits and carbon taxes and all that is another revenue stream that some projects will rely on. And so uncertainty around that just adds to the uncertainty for a project proponent. So obviously for us, clarity on all of those things makes really good sense to help companies make decisions around their projects, right? But I think what Myron's emphasizing here is that that's the global trend is going in that direction, and so capital is looking at long-term trends versus maybe the political cycle today, and so I think we'll see investments recognizing that long-term trend irregardless of the short-term political cycle.
I think one of the things I like to ask, we're blessed in Alberta to have Alberta Innovates. And I mean that I've worked in a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of countries, different provinces, and Alberta Innovates is really forward thinking. And so one of the things I like to understand is how hubs don't exist in isolation. And we need to make sure that, just like an airplane, you want to take off from somewhere and you hopefully want to land somewhere else before you come back to the same spot. Otherwise your vacation is the same or you can't conduct business. So if you can enlighten us a little bit on what do you see on hub and hub development happening over an entire ecosystem, not just within the Edmonton region, but globally?
Yeah, that is a great question. And as I said previously in my question, there is a lot of uncertainty right now. And so that uncertainty also has a play into what can we do right now and what should we study for in the future. And so if we look at the innovation, the innovation key effect on the industry is trying to really tackle those hurdles that we have right now in order to really expand on our hydrogen production and adoption for end use. So for instance, operating costs for producing hydrogen can be an inhibitor for having a positive business case. And so how can we enable innovation in order to reduce those operating costs so that we have a better chance at succeeding in implementing a hydrogen strategy in the province. In regards to what other hubs or jurisdictions are doing in this space, it's super important because the hydrogen production really comes from and should be really taking advantage of the resources that we have available. And so, for instance, if you go to the Nordic countries, maybe hydrogen production from hydroelectricity makes sense. Not in Alberta. In Alberta, we have plenty of natural gas. We have an amazing technical resource in regards to people that are strong, and we have the expertise to really produce hydrogen from natural gas through SMR, ATR. We are actually currently funding other technologies that are looking at pyrolysis, also producing carbon black, other carbon materials that can reduce the carbon intensity for other materials for aviation industry, for heavy duty industry, for automakers. And so really the opportunity is expanding. And another thing I would like to mention is that we are passionate about helping implementing all the solutions with hydrogen. And so as of right now, we have just announced that we are funding a project with Edmonton Airports and DTI Industries to retrofit dual fuel capabilities for snow modelers at the airport. So we're retrofitting two big equipment, and I'm very excited to get to see it because it is a first-of-a-kind project. It hasn't been done anywhere in the world. And so we're very much looking forward to not only seeing the results from this project, but also evaluating what else can we do in the ecosystem, not only for the airport, but for all industries as well.
I just wanted to jump in for a moment and just really also highlight the important role Alberta Innovates has played, certainly in supporting many, many technologies, and many of those we're seeing in the Edmonton region, and they're game-changing technologies in many cases. But I also want to highlight the support, obviously, for the hub itself and the support for other hydrogen hubs in Alberta that's been provided, because it is really about connecting this ecosystem, and hubs, you know, not just one hub, but many hubs are required to begin making these connections. And then we start to talk about the corridors, and I know Alberta Innovates has also supported some of our work related to corridors, tying not just the Alberta corridors, but all the way into British Columbia as well. So this is really critical as we start to build out this economy. So again, just to highlight, Alberta Innovates is funding technology, but they're also funding the ecosystem, some of those processes or new business models as well, and I think that will be really important moving forward.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brent. We can talk all day about all the great work that we're doing in the organization, but I appreciate the fact of highlighting that, and also as part of the consortium or the group work that we're going to do in the next 2 years, we're going to do business economic analysis on how else can we produce and implement hydrogen. We're going to do a knowledge generation effort, making sure that actually folks understand that hydrogen is safe to operate, is safe to use, and also it's a great opportunity for the province.
Yeah, I could just add on, if you think about the DTI, what's going to do with our sweepers at the airport, they exist at every airport around the world. And if they were to sweep a street, they'd sweep the entire street both sides at one time. That's how big they are. But every airport uses them, whether they have snow or anything, they have to have runways continually cleaned. So that technology took work from Edmonton Global, the Hydrogen Hub, the hydrogen made in the Heartland, or coming from the Heartland, Alberta Innovates to help finance the technology, our post-secondary institutions to come up with the support for that, a great mechanical company, DTI, to make it happen, and a location at the airport. So that's at least 6 to 10 organizations involved to trial this technology. But now think about the applications. It's everywhere in the world. Those jobs, that skill set, the ability to actually export technology, knowledge, and know-how from here is dramatic, and it actually helps our companies to not only participate in the global economy, but to become leaders in that global economy that they already are in different spaces. So pretty exciting to see.
So Mark, changing gears a little bit here, decarbonization is key, and the industrial sector is key to decarbonization. And so you really breathing and living in the industrial heartland and also working with industries. What is the role that the industries on the heartland is doing in really making sure that we can seize the opportunity right now in hydrogen?
Yeah, so the companies operating in the heartland, I think the main opportunity that is seen by some of the companies operating is taking advantage of the carbon capture sequestration capability, infrastructure, technical expertise, geology, pore space, all of that makes the region so attractive from a CCS standpoint, because that underpins the production of low carbon hydrogen, which then can help underpin additional industrial decarbonization, and outputs from one facility become inputs to another, and then you continue to decarbonize. So I really think the opportunity in the heartland, and really for the Edmonton region, really is driven primarily by that carbon capture sequestration capability, which leads to production of low-cost, low-carbon hydrogen, which then can lead to a lot of the opportunities that we're talking about here at this conference. And so it's a key. We're just very fortunate to have such a region with the geology and then the ingenuity, capability, the companies that have actually executed this. It's not a nice to have or something that we're dreaming of having. It is actually functioning. There is carbon capture, sequestration infrastructure that operates today in the heartland that has surplus capacity for new emitters today. And I think that's going to really underpin industrial decarbonization and underpin a hydrogen economy in the Edmonton region.
Yeah, and I'd even highlight, I think that's the value proposition of the natural gas, the CCS, but what I'm also excited to see in the industrial heartland are companies that are also accessing things like the natural gas and looking at even different technologies, some of the methane pyrolysis companies locating there, other parts of the ecosystem, hydrogen storage companies. So I think there's just so much diversity in the types of opportunities, but yeah, it is built on that fundamental building block around the low-cost natural gas and the ability to sequester CO2.
Yeah, if I can just add something as well, if I close my eyes and wake up 15 years from now, why is it not that we don't have companies relocating here to do their manufacturing, because they can move to the energy and move the products to come to the energy to actually be refined, to be processed, to be built, to be whatever has to happen, and actually have it happening here. It literally, the energy revolution that's happening will really drive, I think, the future of some of the advanced manufacturing, some of the supply chains that can really look at it differently. So it really, I think, is an opportunity to look at energy in a whole different way than we may have in the past.
Yeah, maybe I just might jump in on that one briefly, because that is some of the work that we've been doing closely, with all of these partners around this table, is looking at these new opportunity areas. So beginning to do those business cases around bringing some of the manufacturing into the region. I always like to say, we want to move hydrogen, we want to move products like ammonia as well, but in some cases, other companies may want to move themselves to the energy resource. So what are those companies? What are those sectors? Where do we focus our efforts? Because there's a significant economic opportunity. And then also these supply chain companies. I always like to refer to all these companies out of the Edmonton region that have grown up in oil and gas over the years, and they can certainly make this pivot towards the hydrogen economy, and seeing themselves having some huge opportunities to be part of these major projects, and want to make sure there's a visibility and awareness, because there's so much is happening. It's just not always the most visible. So the Hydrogen Hub will be working to make sure there's more visibility around what's happening in this region and making those connections. We're actually just about out of time, so I'm actually going to wrap it up here, unless there's any really immediate final words from anyone. But we do have another session coming up. The next session is actually the Global Case Competition Finals. So please stay tuned for that. That's coming up right away. And I'd like to thank my panel, all these great partners that we have with the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, and learn more about the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub at www.hydrogen.ca. So pretty easy to find us. Thank you very much.